Hello and welcome to the Hey Joe Show. It's a halftime Super Bowl show.
Special.
That's right. And I tell you what, we are joined tonight by some special guests. We have Carson and we have Maddox. So we're glad to bring to you another live episode of the Hey Joe Show. And tonight, instead of watching the halftime show, we are glad that you tuned in. And I don't know if maybe you're the one that you're with your family and you turned it off and you're watching on Facebook, or maybe you're at a congregation and you've turned.
But that kind of sounds funny in a way. I guess you could say it was a game, but more than that, it was a learning experience with the help of our teen friends.
That's right. Last week we had three special guests. Tonight we have two, and here's what we're going to do. And I talked to these guys about this.
And they're all special.
A little bit earlier.
Special guests.
That's right. Well, first of all, before we get into it, let me ask you a question. Is there anything going on that maybe the Hey Joe Show crowd needs to know about? I'm not real sure other than... Anything special?
It's February finally.
It's finally February. We have been able to break out of January. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do y'all think that January just drags? What do you think, Maddox?
No, not really.
You think January is just the perfect amount of time?
Yeah.
Carson, have you ever felt like it drags?
I like cold weather. Yeah.
So you enjoy it? Then?
Yes, I enjoy it.
It goes by too fast, right? Because you got to go back to school. The good thing is the spring break comes up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Eventually. All right. Well, January's over. February's here. The Hey Joe Show's in full speed, and we're grateful that you joined us tonight. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump right into it, and we're going to play a game that we started last week. And that game was entitled, It's Your Choice.
Oh, look at you with that, special voice.
The only difference is you guys don't get a choice. Last week we gave the teenagers a choice, and we let them draw a card. And from that card, they had the opportunity to, pick what case study we did. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up where we left off last week, but now we have Carson and Maddox with us, and we're going to work through some case studies. And here's the objective, okay? I'm going to present something to you.
I'm laughing in delayed time. Sorry, someone said it was January 74th, 2 days ago.
I know. It feels that way sometimes. I'm going to present a case study to you, and what we're going to do is we're going to work through it, okay? We're going to come up with three options, and those three options will have a positive and a negative to each one. Okay, does that make sense? So let's say I throw out a scenario, and the scenario is you just found $100 on the side of the road. What do you do? And maybe one of you says as an option, you keep it and you go home and save it, right? Well, then you would have to come up with a positive and a negative for keeping the $100 and going home and saving it. Does that make sense? And then what we're going to do is this. I'm going to obviously filter all of this through the Bible, and we're going to come to a conclusion about what the scenario should be. All right? And doesn't usually have a problem with the guidelines and rules they set before him. He knows they love him and are looking out for his best interest. But lately it feels like they're making all kinds of strict and crazy rules. He tries to remind himself that his parents just want what's best for him. But he is angry that they don't appear to trust him as much as they used to. And he's not sure why. He's faced with the dilemma of what to do. All right, so here's what it is, right? Because I recognize I just read a paragraph, and sometimes you tune out after a paragraph, right? So here's the deal. Michael.
They're like, we don't know you.
Michael is the teenager.
Yeah.
He's got some parents that he believes are great parents. The problem is that there's an issue when it comes to the rules that they are recently setting.
The audio cut out. Reread the question, please. That's what they're asking.
All right, here it is. Just listen to me recapping it. I'm sorry for the audio cutting out. I'm not real sure what happened. So the Michael is the teenager. He's got great parents, not grandparents. He may have great grandparents. I'm not real sure.
Wow.
However, here's the deal. He has started to have a problem with the rules. He believes their rules aren't fair. They're over restrictive. They're crazy. is the way it is. So now he's stuck. He's angry that they don't appear to trust him. So what should they do? So Maddox, let me ask you a question. Parents who the teenagers say have crazy rules. What is one thing that Michael could do? What's one option?
Maybe he could just.
Get in your mic, man. Let me hear you.
He could probably just stick it out and maybe they'll stop, or just.
Okay. Stick it out. What do you mean by sticking it out? Just make sure that way Carson doesn't double up on you. What do you mean by sticking it out?
Just don't say anything and just do it. Maybe you won't get in trouble.
Okay. So the idea is this. His option number one is this. Just do what they say to avoid trouble. All right? All right, Carson, give me a number two.
Can I give an example?
Sure.
So, like, my parents always interrupted me before if I said yes, they would say, yes, ma'am. And when I was really young, and now it's stuck with me, and every time somebody says, do you understand, I say yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. So these strict rules are going to affect you later positively.
Okay, and you're right, they will. And that's great wisdom, man. Great wisdom, because you've learned something. So let me ask you this, though. If Maddox said he could stick with the rules and hang in there, what is another option that Michael could do? Not necessarily that you would do, but what's an option he could do?
I mean, he could easily just disobey all the rules during school and stuff.
There you go. So he could rebel, right? He could rebel, okay? And I think those are two opposite responses that, quite frankly, every teenager, I believe, is faced with, right?
Oh, yeah.
The idea of, am I going to obey or am I not? Okay, so we got one who says...
that is one that we can say that everyone does face.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter who you are, right? So the idea is this. We got Maddox who says obey, Carson who says one option Michael could do is rebel. And so here's what we're going to do. Miss Erin, I know I'm drenching over here. All right, so here's the deal. There's no air, but we are grateful for this room.
Kind of sweaty.
Hey, Joe's very sweaty. So, Miss Erin, you've got to come up with the third option.
Oh, I have to come up with the third option.
The deal
Okay.
is
all right.
obey,
Whoa, this is stressful.
rebel.
Thanks, Carson, this is stressful.
And what's another option that Michael could do?
Okay, if his parents want him to obey, but he's
Crazy
not,
rules. He doesn't think the rules are legit, or he just thinks they're overboard. He feels like they don't trust him. He's angry. One option is he could just obey the parents. One option is he could rebel against the parents. What's another option?
Maybe he could go talk to them and say, Mother, Father, whom I love so dearly. No, just kidding.
Did you ever go talk to your parents
No,
that way?
No, I did not.
Mommy dearest, Daddy dearest.
But this is just my imagination.
Sure,
right?
we're talking about
coming
Michael, not
up
you.
with
I get it.
something. I mean,
Right? Michael, not
No,
you.
he could go talk to his parents and say, in a very respectful way, because Michael's going to be respectful in my scenario, he can say, look, I respect you. I don't quite agree with this. Can we have a conversation about why you have set these rules? Have I done anything to make you tighten the reins? And ask to have a conversation
Very
about
good.
to work through the scenario.
Okay, and that's legit, right? That's a legitimate option, right? You can obey, you can rebel, or you can just go and try to have a conversation with your parents, right? Now, I don't know if that's
See,
ever...
Patrick said discuss. See, we were on the
See,
same
Patrick's a wise
Same
individual. Great job. We
wavelength.
have, by the way, guys, we have the smartest audience in
In case you
live
didn't know,
podcasting, live
smartest.
streaming. The
Totally
absolute
smartest.
smartest. Okay,
We're
so
the
let's do
best.
this. Carson, we're going to go over here with you then. Maddox gave me obey the parents' rules. Give me a positive for what could be a positive in obeying the parents' rules?
It really does affect you later. So, like, when you're 23 and your mom said you should probably save up for a car, you're going to probably get a car.
Very
'cause
good.
they saved it.
So it could benefit you in the future.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Maddox, what's a negative of obeying your parents? And there is one. Go ahead.
Maybe it'll pass. Maybe it'll go down to your kids, and then it won't benefit them as much.
Okay, what do you mean it'll go down to your kids, like being a strict parent?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
It'll affect your parenting style, and so a teenager could obey their parents, and the negative could be, well, if my parents were overburdensome, then maybe that will impact the way I parent my children, which could be negative, is what you're suggesting. And here's the deal: these are case studies. This isn't necessarily what you and I would do, right? These are options, because when we think through case studies, we reason, right? And so option number one is we obey, and the benefit is it could bless you later in life. The negative is it may impact the way you parent if you just go along with the rules that really are crazy, right? All right, so number two, Miss Erin, Miss Hey Joe Show.
Here we go again. Oh,
All right,
we're putting
the
all
second
this
one was
pressure and stress, Joe.
you could just rebel against your parents. what is a positive of rebelling against your parents?
Well, I
And
feel
there has to
that
be a
this
thought
is a
process
trick
with one.
question because a positive for the teen would be if they rebel, then they're getting their way and they're doing what they want. So
Okay.
to them, that's positive. I want to do this. I get to do it. Yay me!
And that's legit, because when a teenager's thinking through
I
this
love
stuff,
this like legit thing you're doing all of a sudden tonight.
I know I'm cool. I am one of the coolest guys that I know.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
Yeah.
I really am, and I
moving
tell
along.
that to our kids all the time. They're
Moving
the
along.
coolest dad ever. And so the idea is this. Okay, so
Shaking their head no.
as a teenager reasons through this, Michael might think, hey, I'm just going to rebel, and that way I can go ahead and do what I want to do, right? All right, so here's the deal then. Carson, what is a negative of rebelling?
A negative. That's hard.
Really? I figured
Yeah.
that would be the easiest one.
I mean,
What's the bad thing about rebelling? What could negatively happen?
your grades could drop.
All right. You could, if you live in rebellion against the rules of your parents, it could affect you academically, is what you're suggesting. And I don't disagree with that.
Yes.
I think
it
that's a great
affect
answer.
You in a lot of negative areas. I
Right.
mean, you've disobeyed.
Yeah. Okay, so now the idea of going against the parents' rules are the positive, you get to do what you want. The negative is there could
You
be
deal with
academic
consequences.
consequences, right? So what about this one then, Maddox? You talk to your parents. Mommy dearest, daddy dearest, right? You go to them and you be honest with them, right? They love you. Michael already thinks that he's got the greatest parents, right? So what would be a negative of going and talking to your parents?
Well, they could be like, I don't know. Okay, so they could be like, well, at least you have like a good place and shelter to live in. Like people across the world don't have anything.
So they could
You're
give
gonna
you
do a lecture.
lecture number
Yeah.
141, right? Lecture number 1. Do y'all ever number your parents' lectures? Y'all ever look? Do you?
You're like, no, we cannot
Countless.
say. Our
I don't-
parents might be watching.
Oh, your parents may tune into this later on. Like, oh, okay, Dad gave me rule number 5.
Someone said you might get caught and become more restrictive.
Absolutely. If you rebel,
If you
that's a
rebel,
negative
that
of
went back-
rebelling.
yeah, that went back to the
That
rebelling.
if you think it's bad
Sorry, I
now,
caught that one late.
if you think it's bad now, go ahead and rebel and see how bad it gets. So here's the deal then. The idea is, what did you say about going and talking to your parents? The negative?
That like,
You'll get a lecture.
yeah,
Oh, you'll get a lecture.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. So what's a positive,
Nature
Aaron?
has
What's a
short-term
positive?
memory.
I have a short
Okay.
memory, but I'm
Yeah,
awesome.
And
Awesome
now I
parent.
have short-term memory because what's my question? And listen, hey Joe, next time, like I'm short here, like
All right, go ahead.
I'm looking
Is
at
this
the
good?
video portion, and
Yeah.
like you can't even see me. I'm blocked.
I
by
see you. You're right there in
Okay,
front of the
fine,
P.
because I'm doing this. I'm
You're
like,
you're on fire.
blocked
You're
by-
in
okay.
front of the
All right,
flame.
back to my question. What's my question?
Your question is this: what's the positive to going and talking to your parents?
Oh, well, the positive is you could see their side from it. They might see your side, and you can come to a compromise.
Okay, so the idea is this: you actually may achieve something by communicating with your parents.
Imagine that communication.
Positive, right?
Communication.
Positive. Now,
I think
sometimes
maybe somewhere I've heard that before. That communicating.
communication is
is a good
pretty
idea.
important, right? So
Okay.
here's what we're going to do then. All right, so we got our 3 options. The option number 1 is to obey. The option number 2 is to rebel. Option number 3 is to talk to the parents, right? With all of those, there are positive and negatives. And here's the way the human brain works, and you guys probably already know this. When we make decisions, sometimes we act on pure emotion, right? That's
Except, you know,
that's the teenager
us.
who gets mad at his parents and he walks into his room and he slams the door. No. Not a good thing to do, right? Not a good thing to do.
Probably not.
But then the idea is this: the reason that we do that is because we think that we are deserving of such. In other words, my parents have been so unreasonable that I'm going to show them and I'm going to slam the door, right? And so the idea behind that is that when we do things, we think through what we do. It may not always be reasonable, but we think through what we do, right? So here's the deal. I'm going to give you some biblical passages to consider. And if you guys think of any on your own, maybe you don't know that where it's found, but maybe you think, I know this verse is there. Then what you do is you say, hey, Joe, what about this one? So here's one. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 3 says this: Children, obey your parents in the Lord as long as they don't give you a lecture and put crazy rules on you.
Not a real thing.
Oh, you didn't think that was in the Bible?
No.
That's not in the Bible. Okay, here we go. How about this one? Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth, right? We all know Ephesians chapter 6. That's one of those, it's like when you step out of line, your parents can say, hey, Ephesians chapter 6. And you're like, don't throw that one at me. No, I'm just kidding. Children, obey your parents, right? All right, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 20. My son, observe the commandment of your father and do not forsake the teaching of your mother. Okay?
Yes.
Of your
mother.
Of your mother.
Mother.
Right? I need a sweat rag. Just kidding.
Here, I'll go get you.
Those of you who are only listening.
Our son's jacket.
My jacket, that's right. Colossians chapter 3, verse 20.
He's
Don't throw
hiding
anything
it.
in the
He's
set.
hiding it.
Colossians chapter 3, verse 20. Children, be obedient to your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. And then Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4 is also something that needs to be brought up, especially the parent side of things. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Now, that doesn't mean fathers don't make your kids mad, right? The idea of provoking someone is doing something with the intent to make them mad, right? And so fathers are warned against that. So let me ask you guys, there may not be any other passages of Scripture. Anything come to mind for you guys?
It's kind of like a respect relationship. You respect me, I respect you. You give me food, I'll give you respect.
Ah, interesting. Just feed me.
That is definitely a boy. A teenage boy answer.
You know what you said
you're
is
right.
so right, man, and that's this. A lot of times teenagers don't look at the basic things that their parents provide as actually respect. In other words, they say, well, I am owed to eat. And the idea of you have to feed me. Well, why do I have to feed you? Because I'm your child, right? But sometimes we need to remember parents sacrifice a lot, right? And so the idea is this: you sacrifice for me in what you provide, and I want to respect you, right? What do you think? Anything else come to your mind, Maddox?
Not really.
That's all right, man. So let's go through this thing, because we got one more case study to do, and then I'm going to let the Hey Joe Show audience get back to that football game that I understand is tied up 10-10. Miss Erin, how's the game going so far?
Fantastic.
How many minutes of that game have you actually watched?
0.
Several.
None.
Several.
None, that's right.
Hey, I know it's 10-10.
Okay, here's the deal. All right, so Michael thinks he has great parents, but they're being pretty strict on him, okay?
Yes.
He doesn't know what to do. So we have this: either obey him, rebel against him, or talk to him. We've looked at the Bible. We know what the Bible teaches. So let me ask you this. Maddox, you'll go first. Which one of our three options do you think is best for Michael to start with?
I think talking to him would be best. because-
Okay, why would you say that?
Well, because like.
That's a great answer,
Yeah.
but kind of give the audience a kind of a why.
There's no right or wrong answer
Yeah.
here.
Probably because like they
Wow.
want you to talk to them, and like if you talk to them, maybe they'll like, understand you because yeah.
Yeah. All right, so if talking to him is the first step, what would you say is the second step, Carson?
Second step would just be if they didn't understand and you didn't do it, they would take the restrict rules off of you, and then you would just obey those loose rules, and as long as you obey them, it'll be fine.
So you're saying that the parent should relax after talking, if they need to.
If they need to,
Okay,
yes.
so let's say they don't. Let's say that he talks to them and they come back and they say, you know what? No, we think that our rules are legitimate. We think that they're good. Michael, you're our son in our house. You're just going to have to deal with it. What would Michael have to do?
You'd really just have to, as Maddox said, really just suck it up. Because my parents have never given me a rule without
Without a reason?
Without a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes back to what you said earlier, respect thing. They may not loosen up, but once you've had that conversation, you may understand better where they're coming from, or maybe not, but you're going to have to have that respect for them to go with what they're saying.
That's right. All right, so very good. So I think we all would agree that
Patrick, who's watching, also said, and if you don't obey, the talk won't go over so well, probably.
Yeah, the talk won't go over so
From a
well,
parent's
and then there'll be
perspective.
other issues. Like, you know, I can tell you this, that parents don't mind talking to their kids. As a matter of fact, they would love to talk to their kids. However, they want to talk to the kids and have the children have a submissive attitude, right? All right, so we're going to do one more. Erin, do we have time for one more? We've been
Well, let's
almost
see.
20 minutes, or is that
Yeah,
is that
I think
time?
we've been almost 20 minutes. I think that was a pretty good discussion
Okay.
on obedience.
All right, then we're not going to force anything. We're not going to force to do more. So I know that we're very appreciative that you two guys joined us for the game. It's your choice. When reality was, it really wasn't your choice, right? I kind of gave you one thing.
That's pretty funny.
You're good.
But let me ask you that. You did well. You did well. So, Maddox, let me tell you this. You're talking to the Hey Joe Show audience.
Hi, Mom.
Worldwide,
Hi, Mom.
nationwide audience, man. You're talking to a teenager, if they're struggling with the rules of their parents, maybe what's some encouragement that you could give to them?
Like, if you're struggling to talk to your parents, then, like, if you're struggling with parents, just, like, don't, like, rebel against them and just know that they're there for you and stuff.
Very good, man. That's awesome.
Understand that they care, right?
That's
They
right.
have your best interest
Take
at heart.
a
I like
step
that.
back. Good job. So,
Yeah.
Carson, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking to maybe a teenager in California is tuning in tonight. Or maybe they're going to listen in. They're having some struggles with their parents. They think their parents are being overburdensome. What's a word of advice that you would give to them?
It would really just be confidence because, I mean, you kind of do have a little bit of say in what goes. Sometimes. Not all the times. But you can really just go up and talk to your parents. Because if I know my parents, I keep talking about examples. I don't know why.
Your parents would love that.
They're doing a
Yeah.
great job.
I used to work with
They're
preschool
doing a
students. They would
great
give
job
examples
with you.
too.
My mom always loves saying good morning. And my mom works in my own school. And if she could calm me down and give me a kiss, I know
love it.
I know she would do it.
Well, and I
So
hope
confidence that your parents have your best interest at heart is what you're saying, and you
Yeah.
can talk to them. You can
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
them and work through this together.
And I think that both of you realize, and I agree with what you've told the audience, and I appreciate your wisdom in that. The reality is this, that some teenagers, here's the deal. Some teenagers, they don't have parents that do have their best interest, right? Not every kid who's going to hear this comes from great families. But a lot of the ones that are going to listen to this do come from great families. But that doesn't mean that the great families don't have stressful moments, especially as teenagers want to push for independence and want to grow. And their parents are struggling maybe with realizing that their children are growing up. I mean, that's an issue for parents as well. We have to deal with that, right? And so
That's an issue
I know
for you, Joe.
because there's a fine line.
mean,
You're
not
trying
issue
to
for me
you're
at
trying
all.
to allow people to grow up and to be on their own. And so I think there's a lot of patience that has to take place, but a lot of trust. And that is where, even if you disagree with your parents, the biblical precedent is that God placed those parents in your life, and that you have the responsibility. Teenagers across America, they have the responsibility of submitting to their parents. Obeying their parents is the way the scriptures teach that, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else, Miss Erin?
I have nothing else to add.
That is all that I have as well. We want to thank you for tuning in tonight to the
Yes.
halftime episode of the Hey Joe Show.
Hey, Joe.
And, Hey Joe,
Hey,
and
got
then
it again, that voice.
the
Whoa,
Hey
whoa,
Joe
whoa.
Show. And we want to encourage you to check out the lightnetwork.tv. That's our platform. We're grateful to be there. Check out truth.fm. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the Hey Joe Show, it's your favorite podcast network. We want to
Absolute
encourage
favorite.
you to do that.
Do
Check us
it.
out.
Big heart.
That's right.
Yes,
Do it right
subscribe.
now. Do it right now. If you're a Spotify person, do it. If you're iHeart Radio podcast, do it.
They say
If
you gotta do
you're-
things while you're thinking about
if
them.
you're Apple Podcasts, do it. It'll only help the show move up in the ranks, which would introduce it to other people.
And
So
we
you
would
really
be
could
so
help us. So
appreciative and happy.
that's right. And so check us out at KyoPublications.org, on Facebook. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, we are out. Have a good evening. Enjoy the second half. Bye bye.
Please hang up and try again. Please hang up and try again.